Hi guys. So today I want to talk to you about a very serious topic once again, which is violence in intimate relationships and especially in teenage relationships. And why especially teenage relationships? Well, I'm going to explain this a little further later on, or rather, I will read you something that will explain it a little further. And also about the early warning signs of, how you can tell if you are maybe about to enter into or you're already in a violent relationship or a relationship that has a tendency or potential to become a violent and oppressive one. So basically, a toxic relationship, right? And those are the warning signs that are basically listed um, for teenagers, but I think they apply to basically all age groups. So, firstly, I want to start this by quoting a scientist called Hagemann-White, and I only have, the German quote, and I tried my best to translate it into English and, not falsify the meaning or anything. And it's a quote that attempts to define violence in gender relations. Okay, and it goes this way. Violence in gender relations is any violation of the physical or mental integrity of a person that is connected to the sexuality of the victim and the offender and is inflicted by the structurally stronger person through the abuse of a power dynamic. So, in the context of the rest of this video, this actually got me thinking about whether all violence that can occur in an intimate relationship can actually be described as violence in gender relations, because well, I'm not sure. I don't think it necessarily has to have to do with the sexuality of the victim, though I guess this is a little bit open to interpretation, and a lot of the aspects of violence in relationships surely do have something to do with the gender and or sex of a person and the sexuality of a person. So why now do I think it's basically especially important to talk about violence in intimate teenage relationships? Well, obviously the teenage years are the time where most people you know enter into their first intimate relationships, or also have their first sexual experiences and stuff. And so in the in the name of prevention and all that, of course it would be ideal for people at a very young age to already know about, for example, the warning signs, which I'm going to read to you later. And also, and I want to introduce you to a project from a German initiative that I'm going to, link down below. And the project is called Heartbeat Relationships Without Violence. And they have a very great manual on their website, which I will also link below. That, just explains a little bit about the background and context and so on, the scientific basis basically of this project. And there's yeah a short part that I would like to read to you about this. According to the result of the Belgium study, in which group discussions were conducted with 12 to 21-year-olds young people understand violence in relationships to mean especially extreme physical or sexual violence. They rarely associate other forms of violence, such as sexual harassment or emotional and verbal abuse, with the term violence. According to the study, this trivialization of violence prevents many young people from viewing themselves as a victim or offender of relationship violence. Rather, they view relationship violence as a phenomenon that affects others, especially adults. And then there's another passage I'd like to read to you. Girls are more frequently victims of violence in intimate teenage relationships than are boys, especially when they have a much older partner. Girls suffer more from the physical and psychological consequences of violence than do boys. Girls with violent experiences deal with strong feelings of fear, worthlessness, shame, and guilt, while boys frequently dismiss their victim experiences as insignificant. Interviews with male adolescents point out that this has less to do with the respondent's image of masculinity, which doesn't allow for being a victim. In fact, the use of violence by a girlfriend affects male adolescents less or is perceived as being more of a bothersome and annoying nuisance, which is usually ignored, but to which they sometimes respond with a much stronger act of violence. Boys who do not take their own victimization seriously may also have a tendency, according to Barter, to trivialize and downplay their own violent behavior towards their girlfriend. So, before I move on, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, as you can tell by this text, it's still pretty, binary focused or something. and if we would, like take into consideration all the diversity and, difference between gender and sex and gender representation and whatnot, that are, you know, just known of today. Um, of course, it would make everything even more complex, right? So, what this all goes to show, I think, is that, all the horrible dynamics of violence in intimate relationships and violence in gender relations already start in that age, but the people are maybe still too unaware or too insecure to really realize it at that age, right? So um, they think this is something that pertains to the older people or the adults, right? And not realizing that they are the ones that might become those adults later on. So then, what are some of the warning signs that you could potentially be in or develop a toxic and or violent relationship, right? And I'm going to basically read from this manual again. It says, if you feel threatened in your relationship, you could be in danger of being hurt physically or emotionally. The list of warning signs may help you identify abuse. Does your boyfriend or girlfriend become constantly jealous or angry when you want to spend time with your friends? Demand to know where you are at all times? Try to control how you dress, who you hang out with, and what you say? Humiliate you or make you feel like you're not good enough? Put sexual pressure on you? Make you feel guilty for your actions? Threaten to harm you or self-harm if you leave the relationship? Say that he or she used to hit it or slap an ex-partner because of their mistakes or faults. Push, kick, shove, strangle, slap, hit you, or call you names. So, I hope this video maybe helped you or just made you think about things. I don't know. If it did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. All I can say is I'm very glad that I never had to experience all of those or many of those things in a romantic relationship. That being said, though, I experienced some of those things or similar things in, other relationships and other relationship dynamics. And yeah, I really would wish for a world where, you know, there are no more toxic relationships and people have enough self-worth and self-love to, you know, not not let it even let it get that far, right? And yeah, that's it for today. Until the next time, bye.